Bum,
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 ba-da-da,
bum,
bum,
bum.
boing. Welcome,
What's happening?
welcome. Come on, come all. Hi, welcome to the Blue Review. We are back. A Tuesday edition, of course. Yesterday, Marcus and Clint killed it, giving us that Monday reaction to just all the crazy Dodgers content as we near the playoffs. How'd everything go yesterday, Marcus? How was the episode? It looked great. It felt great from Lakers Media Day where I was.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, it's always good talking to Clint, getting his perspective on things, kind of putting a bow on the regular season. I'm sure you and Greg both have thoughts on how the regular season wrapped up, and then obviously we can start to turn the page. I know we still have a few days. Today's Tuesday. We have until Saturday before the Dodgers actually get back into action. But it was nice to kind of get Clint's thoughts on how things wrapped up and what he expects for the next week or so.
Yeah. So we want to get into the full, Greg, the full 28-man roster, what we think things will look like. We want to get into your guys' questions in the chat. We got Graham here. He'll throw those questions up and a lot more. But Greg, before we do, I want to remind everyone also, I don't know if we can notice what I got on today.
Ohtani.
There it is.
Come on.
He is full on Dodger blue now, this Parker Bell. Look at that.
I'm fully immersed. I'm ready. I'm playoff Dodgers baseball ready. Travis Rogers over there in the Studio A was very shocked to see me walk in with this, but I told everyone for this man, I would do anything. So shout out to Ohtani. Dodgers baseball playoffs are here. The Blue Review is presented by LAX. Los Angeles International Airport are changing the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving guest time. So check that out at flylax.com/transforming LAX. Greg, let's get right into this. You and Marcus, I know you want to get into the roster and a lot of other things. So send it over to you, and I'll start blasting this out on Twitter because I want all y'all in the chat to be interactive.
Yeah. So so you mentioned, Marcus, that you wanted to just kind of wrap the whole season up in a bow, that like you did with FRG Clint Pasillas. But yeah, I actually felt really good with how the entire series and everything ended. They swept the Rockies. They took 2 out of 3 from the Padres. And now I feel really good going into this postseason now. I feel good about the pitching staff. I feel good about the hitting. I feel good about the bullpen. That's probably a recipe for disaster, right? But at the same time, I feel really good up and down this entire roster. Now it's just trying to figure out who it is and who we're going to play.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I said to Clint yesterday was it was nice. First off, and we said this on Friday, it was nice to not have the drama going into that final weekend, to sort of just be able to exhale and just watch baseball for the sake of watching it. And it felt kind of like the team was on the same wavelength there. It felt like they sort of just played free and easy. I mean, it helps that you're playing a team that lost 101 games. Or whatever it was that they they finished with. But it just seemed like they came out like, all right, well, the pressure's off. Let's just go out and play ball. They put up huge totals in those first couple of games, were able to kind of squeak out a win to get the sweep. So it felt like they were okay. We've had this grueling pennant chase. We can sort of relax a little bit and get our minds right for next week. And we've been saying it for the first time in a long time. Having the bye feels beneficial, mostly because they've played meaningful games in September. Whereas before, they took pretty much a month off and then they had a whole week of not doing anything, which seems like a bad recipe. So now this feels like, all right, this is actually useful. This is an actual useful rest period for them.
Yeah, to get guys to be fully healthy going in. This might be the first time in a while that they actually fully need it. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm actually okay with this one, but it still doesn't change the fact that that's how it works in the postseason. The teams that are hot when it gets to that point. So what I'm hoping is basically the Braves and the Braves and the Padres. And real fast, hey Parker, can you come in here and fix this door? To get it to close, please. Sorry about that. I just don't want to get up. But so there is this between the Braves and the Padres. Just wanted to go as long as possible. To go all 3 games, be extra inning games every single time. Burn out your starters, burn out your players. Do everything that's possible. Make it as tough on both of those teams as absolutely possible. And so they're all beat up by the time they get down to Saturday. If you
that would be great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so that would be great. I think the other thing that sort of works. I know that the poll went out this morning. Who would Dodger fans rather see, the Braves or the Padres? At first check, it seemed like the Padres were leading. Maybe news hasn't gotten up. The Braves have taken the lead. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if word's gotten out yet because there's a chance Chris Sale may not be available for this postseason. He was scratched ahead of that second game yesterday because of back spasms. And he's, as of last check, when I saw it yesterday evening, it could be a little bit more serious. They may not put him on the injured list, but it does seem like the kind of thing that could keep him out for a while. So that would mean if the Braves were somehow able to get by the Padres, they'd be coming into Los Angeles down their number one starter, which I think is huge.
No, yeah, it's monstrous. Yeah, I still would want the Braves anyway. With no Acuna, who obviously they haven't had all year. No Strider, who they haven't all year. And if you lose Sale too, they just seem really, really beat up. And also the fact is, I don't want to see the Padres anymore. I'm done seeing the Padres. We've seen them enough times. They didn't win. They lost the season series to them, and it almost was a complete butt whipping for the entire time of it.
Yeah.
If they didn't take 2 or 3 here, it would have been, I think they're 5-8.
5-9, I think it was
5-9 against the Padres.
Yeah.
That is not a number that I want to see going into the postseason because they know the Dodgers. They played them a lot of times. That was my whole thing. Don't see anybody in the NL West. So let's go Braves. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but I'd rather see a team that we don't see very often. I don't know if you're with me on that.
No, I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, I think the Padres, they are a very good team, and they know this Dodger team very well. And as you mentioned, they've had the Dodgers number this year. I mean, I think in terms of matchups, I think the Padres, for their part, match up very well against the Dodgers, right? They put the ball in play consistently. They will get into your bullpen, which, look, as good as this bullpen has been, the Dodgers' chance for success is limiting their exposure over the course of a series. And so the Padres, they just make contact. We said this last week. Besides Tatis and Machado, there's not a lot of slug in this lineup, but they just tax pitchers. They compete every at bat. They get on base. They create stressful situations. Not that the Braves can't do that, but I feel like they're not quite as adept at that. So I would much rather deal with that team than have to deal with the Padres again. And I feel like some people are kind of like, hey man, like, don't you want to beat the top level competition? I'm like, look, man, everybody's good at this point. It's the playoffs. It's hard to win a World Series. Why should we make the path more difficult than it already needs to be?
See, that's the way I am too. And I know there's a lot of things that it's a complete crapshoot what happens in the postseason. Like it's just a guy gets hot. A guy, Eddie Rosario gets
crap.
hot. What was that? came in. You're just throwing things into the ears.
It's a complete crap. If you know the drop, you know the drop. I guess it was a Mason Island drop.
I don't know the
Darko,
drop.
the Raptors coach.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We'll ignore it.
Very, very random. Thank you for
pretend that never happened.
dynamite drop in, Monty. so either way, I lost my train of thought there. Thanks, Parker. But
hard, tough matchups regardless.
Oh yeah, tough matchups regardless. I mean, there's guys that get hot just at random times. Eddie Rosario got super hot for the Braves that one year, and that's when they went a long ways. Jorge Soler gets super hot, and they just it just happens sometimes. So I'm okay with whoever you play, and even the argument for the Padres to me is. You just took 2 out of 3. Despite a triple play, you probably make it a sweep. You're feeling better about playing them in those tough series because you beat Cease and Musgrove. Mm-hmm. So it feels a little bit, but you didn't see Darvish, and that's a guy that you have hit in the past, but also can just completely shut you down. I just don't. I'm not a fan of it.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. And look, this is a Braves team that they played well against this year. Look. Whatever happens, right? Let's, if we're going to spin this forward and you get to an LCS, if they're fortunate enough to get to that, you're going to have to deal with, either the Phillies, the Mets, or the Brewers. The Mets right now are hot. The Brewers a good team. The Phillies certainly gave the Dodgers problems. It's going to be tough regardless. I really am. I'm path of least resistance in what's already going to be a really tough playoff run.
I think I'm always path of least resistance. So let's go. We'll figure it'll all come up to play. But we got 3 in a row for the Padres and the Braves, or best 2 out of 3, and they're all in San Diego. That's the way these things work now. So that's going to be interesting what happens. All right, let's go through the roster just a little bit. I think the biggest question mark for me I think the hitting is pretty much, the batting order is pretty much set for the most part, except for one specific spot. You have Will Smith and Austin Barnes are definitely in. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman is supposed to be ready. Rojas is supposed to be ready. So Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Gavin Lux, Max Muncy, Miguel Rojas in. Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez in. And then it starts to get interesting from there. So it's really between, you get 12 guys. You can bring in probably 2 or 4 of and Kike Hernandez, Kevin Kiermaier, Andy Pages, and Chris Taylor. What would be the 2 that you go with there?
I think Kike is in.
I agree. I think Kike is in. He's a lock, I think.
So he's one of those guys that's in. I think Chris Taylor gets in. The fact that he's hit the ball down the stretch. It's a lot of things. One, he's hit the ball well down the stretch. He does give you positional flexibility. And the other part, which I think cannot be discounted, is he has history with Dave Roberts. We know that Roberts can be faithful to some guys, sometimes to a detriment, but sometimes, it works out in his favor. And he's one of those guys. Taylor's one of those guys that I think Roberts is very faithful to, is very loyal to, and we'll see whether or not that's going to be rewarded. But I think that gives him an edge, over somebody like Kevin Kiermaier. I think Pages probably gets in.
Yep. So Kiermaier for you is out.
I think he's the odd man out right now. Yeah.
See, he's injured, and I think that's going to play a big deal into what's going on, whether he's okay. I think you saw earlier he's day to day. So if he's day to day, if he's playing, I was fully convinced that Kevin Kiermaier was making this roster. Fully convinced. I think the question is, do you want the offense or do you want the defense, especially coming off the bench? So you're good. You're going to get decent defense from Chris Taylor. You're going to get pretty bad defense from Andy Pages, and you're going to get incredible offense from Kevin Kiermaier. You get nothing offensively from Kevin Kiermaier. You have a lot of pop in Andy Pages, and he's starting to show that pop again. And you're going to get decent singles, not a ton of pop, but he does have it in Taylor. So it's really about what you're looking for. Do you want the defensive combo of Chris Taylor? Do you want the offensive portion and no defense from Pages, or the defense and no offense from Kiermaier? I think I would go Kevin Kiermaier and Andy Pages and leave Chris Taylor off.
I mean, look, I don't think that's a terrible idea. Like, I don't hate it. I think any one of these combinations, if you're mixing and matching, I think sort of makes sense. What I'm sort of doing right now is I filibuster is a little bit, you're going through. I do wonder how much of this has to do with who they potentially play. If you see the Braves, they have a few more lefties in their rotation and in their bullpen. Does that mean that instead you get an Andy Pages because you're not going to hit Kiermaier against lefties? Whereas if it's the Padres and they don't have quite as many left-handers, you get Kiermaier in there just because, you want to sort of limit Pages' exposure at the plate in those situations.
Yeah, it very well could be that way, but I think about it in terms of end of game scenarios, who you want coming off the bench on offense and on defense. Edman is a guy that can play both center field and shortstop, so he kind of takes that center field defensive play away from Kiermaier. But at the same time, we don't know what's going on with Rojas. His legs have been kind of a mess for a long time. Yeah. And now he's, kind of day to day and all that kind of, he seems to be, they say he's going to be just fine, which we know how Dave is with when it comes to injuries. Right. But I don't know. To me, defense in these situations means so much more. I mean, I always go back to last year. We talked about it 1,000 times, but James Outman missing that ball in center field right at the beginning of the game changed the entire series. Kevin Kiermaier doesn't do that. So if Rojas isn't 100% and you need to have Edman at short, I like Kiermaier in center, even though he's a complete zero at the plate. Yeah. Besides the fact, unless he has 2 guys on and he needs to bunt them over, that's the only thing he does well.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's swaying your opinion at all, but I don't know. That's
I
where
know.
I'm.
I mean, I think it's all really, really valid, right? I don't think that that's something to be discounted. I'm sort of looking. I know. It feels like the fan base is pretty much done with Chris Taylor. And look, I get it. He was what, like 9 for 90 or something like that. It felt like to start the season. I mean, it was pretty awful. Dude hit over 300 in September. Granted, it was sort of limited action. He's not playing every day, but um the bat started to come alive, right? He had a good month of June. Was in July and August, but then got hot again in September. And so I think, I think what happens with this team is, as much as we want to be optimistic about the pitching staff, I think we also have to realize that they're going to win games by scoring runs. And I think
Yes.
that's going to be a big calculation for Dave Roberts is, can I put the 9 guys in the lineup that can generate the most offense? And yeah, I think your point to late game defense is still very, very valid. But I think in terms of like, okay, what 9 guys can I put in combination that can, that I feel like can get us 4, 5, 6 runs a night? And I think that's what gives Chris Taylor an edge.
And you're probably right. I mean, they also have the loyalty to Chris Taylor. He's been around for a long time. He's had big moments in September. There's a lot of things that kind of lean towards Chris Taylor. I don't. My brain is just locked on Kevin Kiermaier being on the roster for those late game situations, and they will come into play. And we talk about guys just randomly getting hot in September. That can be Kiermaier. He didn't when he was in Tampa Bay, even obviously, but he had moments. I don't know. It just is very, very tough for me to kind of go away with it. I know Kike is fully getting on there. It really is that 3. It's 2 of the 3 between Kiermaier, Pajes, and Taylor, and what they do is going to be very, very telling to me about loyalty and what is the best overall team. And I think if you want the best offensive team, you're right. If you want to have the defensive flexibility, I'm right. It really just.
Right.
I don't think either of us are wrong.
Right. No. I mean, I agree, and it really. I mean, what would be best is if Kiermaier would hit a little bit, because then like the issue is solved, right?
Just a little.
If Kiermaier just hit a little bit, then the issue is solved. He's on the roster, and it's not going to be an issue. I love that from Bubba. Just have him bunt every single at bat. I mean, with his speed, yeah, it's hard. It's harder for him to bunt into a double play unless he, like, I don't know, pops one up or something like that. So, yeah, I think that outfield, and that's the thing we talked about all year. I mean, remember the trading deadline, about how they fix that outfield or find a spot to fill that outfield gap, because you knew you had the corners locked down with Teoscar and Mookie. It was just finding somebody in center field because Outman's not giving you anything offensively. Pajes defensively is an issue, and now you got Kiermaier who's struggling to hit the ball. So, yeah, it's not an easy answer.
It really isn't. And I can just see Andy Pajes dropping a fly ball in center field because he just lost it in the sun or lost it in the lights, or because as he's done a few times. So that's where it gets to be. It just terrifies me even thinking about that. I think, the pitching staff is pretty much set to me. I think the only kind of questions are going to be, is it going to be, is Anthony Banda going to make the roster? Is Daniel Hudson? He's been kind of up and down, hasn't pitched in a while. Is Daniel Hudson going to make the roster? If you could choose who your main guys were in the bullpen, where are you going?
I think Banda gets a roster spot.
One more lefties,
being a lefty on top of that, being a guy who can give you a little bit of length out of the bullpen if you need it. Because that's been a big hole in this pitching staff, is guys who can give you multiple innings, especially out of the bullpen. So if it comes down to it, Banda can get you 6-7 outs if necessary. Being left-hander is a big deal. I think it also depends on who that fourth starter is or how they handle that fourth starter spot, right? Like, could it be that if it gets to that point, they have Ryan Brazier as the opener and they bring in Landon Knack to kind of give them 4 innings? I mean, it's sort of what they did. Was it on Sunday? I think is what they did.
Yep.
Maybe that's sort of the way they go. They go with the opener. They know, you can get 4, maybe 5 innings out of Landon Knack, and then suddenly that shortens the game for the rest of your bullpen. So, that I think also is going to have an impact on how they handle the pitching staff.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that still gives the 4 main starters, if you want to call them starters, but if they go your route, is Landon Knack, Walker Buehler, Landon Knack, it's another one is Tony Gonsolin, whether he makes it or not, but
yeah.
Yamamoto Yamamoto and Flaherty. Those are fully set and in, and they're going to be 1 through 4. But at the same time, does Michael Grove make the roster? I doubt that.
Yeah.
Brewstar being out was absolutely brutal. He was looking so good. I mean, it's that is where it's going to start. If they want to have length guys, are they going to bring Ben Kasperius? Are they going to bring Justin Robleski? I doubt either of those guys get in.
Does Joe Kelly make the roster?
See, that's if they want to use him early and like in that, how they'll go Brazier, Kelly, and then have Knack go through at that point. That's possible, but
you're not giving him because you're not giving him any high leverage situations.
No.
Right,
so if you're not going to do that, then you shouldn't put him on there. No.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Because it recently has been a lot of, hey, Joe Kelly's in the 4th inning. Like there's been a lot of that lately, and that sort of speaks to how Dave is feeling about him right now. When everything's right, Joe Kelly is lights out. But the problem is you never know which version you're going to get, and it feels like more often than not you've sort of gotten the bad version of Joe Kelly in big situations. So I find it hard to think that he's on the playoff roster, and if he is, he's very much a worst case mop up guy. Like things have gone bad. We just need you to get some outs here, and this is why you're in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So Roy Estrada saying Greg Hudson is down, not up, and is Henriquez eligible to make roster? Her Dodgers had to request approval from the MLB. I don't know the answer to that one. That was where I was going to go next. Is if Edgardo Henriquez is available and has that type of power and has been pretty much shut down. I don't think he's given up anything this year yet, has he?
I don't think he's given up a run. I think he's had a couple guys on base, but no runs.
But no, I don't know. I mean, would you consider bringing in that guy that hasn't done anything and just comes up and does what he's been doing?
I mean, I think the argument in favor of Henriquez is scouting reports not really out on him yet.
Yeah.
So
he did give up a run against Colorado.
Okay. Other than everybody knows he throws really hard. That's kind of the extent of the book on Edgardo Henriquez now. So maybe it's a little bit of an advantage. I don't know the rules about his eligibility and that sort of thing. I'd have to dig into that and look it up. But it is one more name to at least kick around about a guy. You mentioned Kasperius, Robleski, those kind of guys. There are some arms that they can sort of play with and figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, they do. And this is where we have a week to figure it out. And you know what the worst part about all of it is, Marcus? We're not going to find out until probably Friday night.
Yeah.
Saturday morning. They're going to wait till the very, very last second to announce what the actual roster is. So we won't even be able to talk about it on the Blue Review most likely because it's not going to come out until when we're on. But this is what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the week is that who we're going to be facing, what's this roster going to look like. How you feel? Are you feeling good about this? Like I said, I feel great. I feel like they can win the World Series. I actually do think they're going to win the World Series. Where are you at?
I am feeling better. It's funny because for the last 2 weeks or so, my opinion of this team has been based solely on the previous nice results. When they come out and whoever the starter is doesn't last beyond the 4th inning and the bullpen is taxed and they're either they lose or they're just barely able to squeak one out. I'm like, I don't know what this team's going to be. I don't know if they have a shot. Then you get those games where the pitching looks great. Walker Buehler might give you 5 or 6 strong innings, or Yamamoto looks great. The offense is clicking. Then it's like, oh yeah, who's going to beat this team? So like my feeling, my mental health has been really entirely dependent on whoever starts the previous day, and I guess whoever's starting the next day too, because then I can sort of project as to what it's going to be. But as of this moment, I feel good. Right, the offense has been great for the last couple of weeks. The pitching has been good enough. I still believe that limiting exposure to the bullpen is going to be the best medicine. I saw a really good quote from Mike Schilt in that last Padres series where they were asking him about his bullpen, and he said, for me, the best bullpen is having starters who can give you length and having a good offense. And I think there's some truth to that. If the Dodgers can get 5, I said for Clint 6 might be the magic number because it's been a long time since they've had a playoff starter go 6, but they can get 5. And then you're only worried about, those last 4 innings as opposed to trying to get 5 or 6 innings out of the bullpen. I think they're in a much better position.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and you're right though. I feel like it feels good at this moment. We'll see how we feel on Saturday, but we got a lot more Blue Review to talk to. Parker, if you want to take us away, get us over onto Travis and DeMarco.
That's right, Greg. A lot more Blue Review until the actual NLDS. So stick with us all week as we react to more of this. I think tomorrow I had a fun little game. Maybe we can do like a historical comp to who this Dodgers team would be and their road to the World Series, how that would pan out. I got a pretty interesting team that maybe you guys would like to react to. So stay here for Travis and DeMarco. Of course, always the Blue Review is presented by LAX. For the Blue Review, I've been Parker Bell alongside Marcus Grant. He's over here usually. And Greg Berman. He's over here usually. So thank you to everyone being in the chat. We will catch you tomorrow, 8:30 to 8:55. And that is all. Sayonara.